Hi guys, I'm up a little early today actually. It's 6:45 a.m. Eastern time. Man, I was up at 6. My 2-year-old woke up, so I had to go out there or in her room and take her potty. And I just couldn't go back to sleep. I'm just running through all kinds of stuff in my head. And man, I gotta tell you, I cannot tell you the last time I woke up early and decided, I feel like getting on the computer right now. No, I don't even get on the computer until I get to work, which is about 8 o'clock a.m. And then I check my little sites, do my little daily routine real quick, see what's going on. But man, I just was awake, couldn't sleep. Let me get up. Let me go just check on the internet, see what's going on. A little headline catches my eye. Oil plunges as Japan's refineries shut down plants after earthquake. Doesn't oil normally rise when you shut down plants? Huh. Oil fell in New York, headed for the first weekly decline in a month after the world's strongest earthquake in more than 6 years struck the northern coast of Japan and forced refiners to shut processing plants. So I'm reading this thinking, what? Largest in 6 years? I thought they just had an earthquake the other day. Is that what they're talking about? Huh. So I keep reading. Futures slipped for a fourth day after the Temblor and the world's third largest crude user. A fire at Cosmo Oil Company's oil refinery in Chiba outside Tokyo is spreading, a fire department spokesperson said. JX Nippon Oil and Energy Company, or Corporation, shut its refineries in Sendai, Kashima, and Negishi. Prices had dropped before the earthquake on speculation the economic recovery in the U.S. may falter. So it's just speculation that the U.S. economic recovery will falter, so the prices were already dropping. And then the earthquake hits, and they have to actually shut down plants, oil refineries, and the price plunges. Huh. Seems like I just read the other day, and so did you, Libya to cut 1.6 million barrels of oil. Prices skyrocket. So, there's still a problem in Libya, okay? They still got oil shut down over there, doing their thing. And now we have Japan shutting down their refineries. And there's actually, on Bloomberg, of course, nonsense, mainstream media for the sheep in America, oil plunges as Japan's refineries shut plants after earthquake. It should be skyrocketing because of that. Any other day that the price of barrel oil went up, it's always news on like that. This just goes to show you that they can say such crap and make the price go up, and then say the same crap later on some other time and the price goes down. And they just say, well, that's why it went down. They realize that people are stupid. Americans don't pay attention to anything besides football, American Idol, Celebrity Apprentice, and nonsense. Just like the Roman Empire people back 2,000 years ago, while Rome was pillaging and raping and plundering all these other countries on their massive expansion, which kind of reminds you of a country that you may know very well, all the people cared about was, why have we not had the Colosseum events like we used to? We used to have them twice a month. Then it got to once a month. Now it's once every couple months. Now we're lucky if we get one every 3 months. What the hell's going on? And they said that it actually would cost, in today's dollars, $1 billion to put on one of these events. That's how huge it was for the Roman people. And while the Roman Empire is starting to collapse, the rest of the world has had enough of the Roman Empire. Remember, there's another Roman Empire in power today, and I hate to say it who it is, but I think you know who it is, and it's currently on its decline. And because I live here, that sucks, but that doesn't mean I'm going to lie to you and tell you a lie. I'm going to tell you the truth anyways. So, yeah, it's my country. We're on the decline. We are the New Age Roman Empire. We have 180-something whatever bases in other countries. We're expanding. We're in Iraq. We're in Afghanistan. We're now getting ready for Libya, etc., etc. And as the old Webbot report had mentioned, we're going to be spread a little bit too thin when other countries decide we've had enough. History is a teacher. If you want to know the future, you got to know history. That's a fact. And again, all the people cared about then was, where's the Coliseum events? That's all I want. Give us the Coliseum. But your 100% 0.999 gold and silver coins are no longer 0.999. Now they're putting nickel and some other, metals into these things because they couldn't pay for everything that they were doing. They couldn't pay for the expansion. It was imploding. So let's just water down the gold and silver coins to give to people to where it got to the point where it was becoming worthless. Again, who does that sound like? Which country does that sound like right now? Well, if you don't like it, then you could just leave. You're right, I could. But I'm not. Because I was taught and told and pounded into my head that this is the greatest country on the face of the earth. We have the most freedoms compared to everywhere else. We have a democracy, and that's the best form of government, etc., 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 only to find out that everything's a lie. So no, I'm not leaving. The people who need to leave are the people who have been lying to us the whole time, which just happens to be the highest levels of government now, which is, of course, the highest level of banking, who go into government and are appointed by our government officials. So if anyone needs to leave, you need to tell them, if you don't like the way people like Joe, Dr. Doom, and other people are waking up and trying to wake other people up, you guys should leave and try to do your Roman Empire takeover somewhere else, because America was supposed to be land of the free, home of the brave, the world's role model, and it is now becoming the world's worst nightmare with all these wars that have nothing to do with anything but oil and control. As you just saw recently, we're getting ready to go into Libya. They happen to be the largest oil producer on the entire continent of Africa. So, this pisses me off when I see oil plunges as Japan's refineries shut plants after earthquake. Okay, so again, I'm getting a little off the point of this video right now because I'm really telling you there's a massive earthquake that just struck Japan. Massive. Unbelievable. If you think 2012, you guys were a bunch of bozos, 2012, yeah, I'm gonna laugh so hard when 2012 comes by, nothing happens, and you guys are looking like a bunch of idiots. Well, I suppose you bozos out there who think that, which includes some of my friends, have you been paying attention to the 7.0 and higher earthquakes that have happened? Last year, we broke records. There was approximately 21 or 22. On average, there's 15. Last year, that was up. Pretty significant. That's about, what, 25% or so? Whatever. So, actually, probably more than that. To tell you the truth, more than 25%. Anyways, that happened. So I started noticing this year. We were in January, we had like 4 or something. Wow. February, we had a couple. Okay. We're up there. It's happening. Now, 8.9 strikes Japan. What did the Webbot say would happen? We're not getting into specifics of when and where. There's so much earth change stuff in the Webbot report, we can't even decipher through it, basically, and spend all of our time picking that stuff out and trying to give you dates that's going to happen. There's going to be so much earth change stuff, including earthquakes. All we can tell you is there's going to be big earthquakes, and if they're not big as far as Richter scale, they'll be smaller, still fairly large, but cause the damage of, say, 7.5, 8, 9, etc. And we did have that happen last year, actually. Now we've got an 8.9. And I question it, was it originally an 8.9? Because I've always noticed the USGS will take something that's like a 9.0, 9.1, 9.2 and downgrade it just so that they can get it below the number. And I can't tell you several times, or I can tell you several times last year, we had 7.1, 7.2, downgraded 6.9, downgraded 6.8, downgraded 6.9. So when I tell you there was 22 or 21 7.0 or higher, it could have been 25, 26, 27, 28, but they were downgraded, as the USGS always does a lot of the times. I say always, most of the time, when it's that close, and drops it down a couple notches just to get it out of that range so that there can't be data that says, look, there was actually an 8 or an 8.1. No, it was 7. Or in this case, it's an 8.9. Did it really trigger ones across the earth that said it was a 9.2, 9.1, 9.0? I haven't looked. I just started making this video immediately, but it doesn't even matter. An 8.9 doesn't bother me that it wasn't a 9.0 or 9.1, and they're just skewing the data to make it an 8.9. I don't care. That's a huge freaking earthquake. And I'm looking at this picture, and I'm like, oh, that's like where is that? And I'm looking, oh my God, that's water. That's a house or something. I don't know what it is, on fire. There's other houses back here, way back here, all over the place that you see. Everything you see that's sticking up, that's not flat and clear, is some type of building or house. And you probably can't see from this video, but right here going across the top part of my finger is a wave, a big ass wave still coming from the tsunami. So far, 32 killed in major tsunami after 8.9 Japan quake. A powerful tsunami spawned by the largest earthquake in Japan's recent history slammed the eastern coast Friday, sweeping away boats, cars, homes, and people as widespread fires burned out of control. Tsunami warnings blanketed the entire Pacific as far away as South America, Canada, Alaska, and the entire west coast. Authorities said at least 32 people were killed. The magnitude 8.9 offshore quake was followed by at least 19 aftershocks, most of them of more than magnitude 6.0. Dozens of cities and villages along the 1,300-mile stretch of coastline were shaken by violent tremors that reached as far away as Tokyo. Hundreds of miles, in which Tokyo was hundreds of miles from the epicenter. A utility company in northeastern Japan reported a fire in a turbine building of nuclear power plant. That's not good. The earthquake has caused major damage in broad areas in northern Japan, Prime Minister Naoto Kan said in a news conference. Even for a country used to earthquakes, this was one of the horrific proportions. It unleashed a 23-foot or 7-meter tsunami that swept boats, cars, and buildings and tons of debris miles inland. Now this is kind of disturbing for me because I'm not that far off the coast here in Florida of where something could, I guess, potentially happen. I mean, I'm a good 20-something miles away. I'm probably fine, but and I'm in the Gulf side of things. You know, there's not enough. There's a lot of water there, but it's not very deep in the Gulf versus like the Atlantic. So I do feel pretty good about that. I mean, it unleashed a 23-foot. That's, I mean, in all fairness, is 23-foot huge? No. It's not a 100-foot wave. It's not a 50 or 60-foot wave. It's a 23-foot wave. It's not that big. 23-foot tsunami swept boats, cars, buildings, and tons of debris miles, with an S, miles inland. So, that's disturbing because I always thought to myself, well, if I hear about a 100-foot wave coming, who cares? I mean, it's not going to go inland that far. It's only 100 feet. You know, you're thinking math, 100 feet up, it hits land finally, you know, come on. It can't really go in that far. But we had a little baby, basically, 23-foot wave, tsunami, whatever, that swept buildings and tons of debris and cars miles inland. That's shocking to me. That's why I keep saying this over and over. This is crazy. Miles from a 23-foot wave? I mean, I guess there's more than one wave coming, but still. And usually a tsunami is one big wave for the most part, and then smaller ones. Large fishing boats and other sea vessels rode high waves into the cities, slamming against overpasses. Man. Upturned and partially submerged vehicles were seen bobbing in the water. Waves of muddy water swept over farmland. Now that's another shocker. You know, you better start paying attention to why Dr. Doom's telling you to get your food storages going along with your silver. Waves of muddy water swept over farmland. If there was any crops growing in that farmland at any level, they're ready to be picked. They're getting ready to be picked. They got another month to go before they're ready. They are gone. Done. Waves of muddy water swept over farmland near the city of Sendai, carrying buildings, some on fire. Inland, as cars attempted to drive away, Sendai Airport, north of Tokyo, was inundated with cars, trucks, buses, and thick mud deposited over its runways. Fires spread through a section of the city, public broadcaster NHK reported. The tsunami roared over embankments, washing anything in its path before reversing directions and carrying the cars and homes and other debris back out to sea. Flames shot from some of the houses, probably because of burst gas pipes. Our initial assessment indicates that there has already been enormous damage, Chief Government Spokesman Yukio Edano said. We will make maximum relief effort based on that assessment. He said the Defense Ministry was sending troops to the quake-hit region. A utility aircraft and several helicopters were on the way. A large fire erupted at the Cosmo oil refinery in Ichihara City in Chiba Prefecture near Tokyo and was burning out of control, with 100-foot high flames whipping into the sky. In northern Japan's Miyagi Prefecture, a fire broke out in a turbine building of a nuclear power plant. Smoke was observed coming out of the building, which is separate from the plant's reactor. Thank God. And the case is under investigation, said the power company. There have been no reports of radioactive leaks or injuries, the company said. Several nuclear plants elsewhere along the coast were also partially shut down with no reports of leakage. Now I gotta say something. Many of you probably have heard of a person by the name of Edgar Cayce, known as the Sleeping Prophet of the early 1900s. Died in, I think, around 1944 or 42 or something like that. One of those type of guys like Nostradamus that actually told the day he would die well in advance, and it actually happened. Gave around 13,000 or 14,000 readings, if you will, through his lifetime, and was told by this spirit guide entity thing that whatever he needed. And I think this thing, whenever he would go into his little trance sleep state, this thing would take over and people could ask questions and it could answer anything. This guy didn't even have a high school or even most of a grade school education, as he had to drop out early, from what I understand, I think, to help around the farm or whatever, help, mom and pop survive, basically. And I thought the story goes along the lines that he was reading his Bible one day. He skipped school and went in the woods behind his house to read his Bible and was met by some kind of entity, spirit thing. And I forget the story, but it was that day forward that he got this power, so to speak. And I hope I'm thinking of the right guy with that story. But anyways, he was phenomenal in his predictions. Unbelievable. And he said around the turn of the century, meaning 2000, we would have a pole shift of the Earth. We are witnessing, as we speak, the magnetic poles shifting rapidly. I know we've all heard Tampa Airport, we have to change the runway because the North Pole is now moving to a level where we can't just stay where we are. We've got to change the runways around. That's my hometown, Tampa. That was news not too long ago. We found out that the poles, North Pole, moves towards Siberia. Currently, at the time anyways, for the last like 200 plus years or however long we've been able to, from the very beginning, it was in the 1800s, I don't know what year, we were able to figure out where it was and where it was heading and what speed it was heading per year. And it was on average about 7 miles per year heading towards Siberia from its current location where it was at. It is now 40 miles per year and rapidly increasing fast to Siberia, and faster every year now. Matter of fact, every month it seems it's even picking up. He also said the new North Pole would be pretty much where it's heading, by the way. And I think it was either him that said it would be 16 degrees off of where it's at now, or 20 degrees. And whatever the recent thing that I read from like scientists or NASA was saying that it was, in other words, one of them said it was 20 degrees and Edgar Cayce, or the opposite, said it was 16. Either way, it's in the general area where he said it was. So that's pretty interesting. Anyways, why am I telling you this? Because he said, and he spoke about different areas of the land about this pole shift and what would cause these problems. What would happen to these certain areas of the world when the pole shift occurred. And one of the things he mentioned, I think, about the UK or Britain, was that it would be, I don't know if he said it would be gone in the twinkling of an eye, or it would be frozen in the twinkling of an eye. I thought he said it would be gone in the twinkling of an eye. And he also mentioned that Japan you might as well forget Japan. It's gone. It'll be gone. Completely destroyed for the most part. Because of waters and what's going to happen. Now, Japan is right there where earthquakes strike all the time. And as we just saw today, an 8.9, possibly higher if the data was skewed. And there's massive problem. This tsunami is actually heading towards Hawaii. There's tsunami warnings there. And the interesting thing was my wife came in, I told her, man, check this out. She says, oh yeah, I just turned on the news to see what was going on, and they spent a few minutes only talking about it. They showed one little picture of the water, mentioned that it could be heading towards Hawaii, and then they went back on to just the weather and other stuff, as if it was just a little weather phenomenon. It's gonna be sunny over here. Japan's gonna be a little gloomy. There's gonna be some deaths, nuclear power plants on fire, and oil refineries shut down, and some of them burning. And on to today's news, we've got Charlie Sheen coming on the show later. Basically, that was what type of news that was happening here in America. So now you know why myself and other people, lots of people, are finally waking up and saying, I want some news. I want to see what's going on in the world because I don't feel comfortable right now. I can tell there's a problem. There's this pressure. I feel it. I sense it. I can see it. And my news doesn't seem to care and seems to divert me a lot of times when I would like to see news on these certain things that I see elsewhere. And I don't like that. I feel like I'm being taken advantage of. So I'm going to go see if I can find news somewhere else. And then they go to Russia Today. They go to Al Jazeera English, which Hillary Clinton was just on at a little meeting that they have on video. You can go to YouTube and see it, where she's saying we're getting our butts kicked by Al Jazeera English and Russia Today, our news media with the two talking heads, and I'm right, no, I'm right, no, I'm right, I got my points. It's old, it's fake, it stays like two wrestlers. It's nonsense. She recognized that and said we need to do something here. I don't think anything's gonna happen. Our news is designed to keep you in the dark, and they're doing a damn good job. So, believe it or not, I haven't mentioned this to anybody. I have on Tuesday coming up next week, a few days from now, public access TV in Tampa. I'm going to what was the word they used? Like not really a seminar. It's like a little briefing kind of thing, whatever, about how it is. And anybody can get on TV. And I decided Dr. Doom is going to public access TV if I can get on there. I'm going to be talking heavily about Lindsey Williams, the predictions, oil, the stuff going on in the Middle East. I'm going to be talking about the 9/11 inside job stuff. I'm going to put some stuff together because I've got to wake people up in my area. Simply because I could just sit back and say, well, there is a lot of people on this planet and there's going to be a cleansing of them here shortly. Most of them don't even know about it and don't realize they've actually been paying for it with their taxes. And they're not going to be saved when this happens, while their leaders will be in underground facilities. A lot of people talk about the FEMA camps and they're going to lock people up, and these trillions of dollars that have been reportedly spent to these countries like Halliburton, who had a contract to build these facilities. I'm here to tell you that I believe that that's a cover story to make a real good conspiracy so that they can take that money and build their underground bases so that they can have a place to hide at your tax dollar expenses, while you get pissed off thinking there's going to be, roundups of citizens. I don't think that's going to happen at all. But I could be wrong, and it could be after the fact of the Nightmare 2012 scenario that is probably going to be playing out. But I don't know, and I'm not even going to really talk about that right now because it's just my opinion at this point. But this earthquake is huge. There are going to be more to come. There are going to be worse ones. They're going to be more frequent. You're going to see. Why? Because we are getting closer and closer and closer to 2012. I've been saying that since 2007 to friends and family who basically laughed at me. And I said, we're going to get closer to 2012. And as we get closer to it, to this galactic alignment that takes place with the center of the galaxy in 2012, December 21st, you might as well say 2013, you're going to see things picking up and getting worse. So we're going to have the oil crisis in the Middle East cause the American economy collapse. We didn't foresee that. As Ben Bernanke said recently, and I did a video on this, at the current levels of the price of oil, we got this under control. And then a few days later, which I meant to do a video, but I just didn't, another Federal Reserve guy at one of the other banks that meets with him, one of the guys that sits around his little, knights of the round table, he's the head guy, and there's several other central bankers from different Fed, regions, whatever, that meet and help form policy. This other guy, I don't remember his name, said, well, at the current levels of 100, we can go to even 120, maybe to 150, and we think we can still, keep the recovery on track. But if it goes above 150, what he basically beat around the bush and said is, you're on your own. We can't control if gas goes to oil, oil goes to 150. In other words, as Lindsey Williams said, listen to the elites' buzzwords. They'll tell you everything that they're going to do, everything that's going to happen. You just have to pick it out and realize what they're telling you. At the current level, we got this under control. At 120, we got this under control. 150 and above, we may not have this under control. We already knew that it wasn't under control. You can't print money. You can't create debt to get out of debt while simultaneously cutting the workforce as a side effect of this whole thing, which is less income for your country, less income to the IRS, less income to businesses around there, because people who aren't working aren't going out spending money, even in the businesses that are around. So some businesses can say, well, actually ours just stayed pretty much the same. And that's you're right. There's going to be statistics that show that. But the overall picture is that people don't spend when they don't have money to spend. And when food prices are rising rapidly and oil prices are going to be rising rapidly, which causes everything else, including food prices, to rise rapidly, they're not going to be out there buying some little product from you. If you're cutting their yards and you own your own lawn care business, such as my brother-in-law, I love the guy, a fantastic guy, who's married to my dumb sister, Bozo. But, whatever. It's my sister. I hope and pray that he does not get affected by the coming collapse of the New Age Roman Empire, aka America, and that when people say, I've got to drive to work every day, I'm driving 30 minutes to work, 40 minutes, an hour to work, the gas alone is destroying me, I have to stop paying my credit cards, I'm soon going to have to stop paying my mortgage just to afford gas and food. I sure as hell aren't using you anymore to mow my yard. I'm going to get off my lazy butt, I need the exercise anyways, and I'm going to start mowing my own yard. I don't care if I have to buy a $100 push mower or $80 push mower. I'm going to do it because I can't afford your price increase, for one thing. And even if you didn't increase your price, I can't afford the extra money right now. Because believe me, they're not going to stop paying their mortgage so that they can pay you to mow their yard. They'll stop paying you to mow their yard before they quit paying their mortgage and credit cards and other things. Trust me, my credit report. Can't have a bad credit report. I'm a sheeple, and the same companies, banks that rape and pillage me, also created this thing called the credit report. So they get to judge me in their own system. I never had a say. I didn't agree to the system. It was just there when I was born, and I noticed everyone else was into it, so I just became another sheep and got into it too. I didn't have a choice. It's how our economy works. Got to have good credit. Not anymore. Because you're not going to find people who have good credit. You're not going to be able to get... even if you have a good paying job but your credit sucks right now, you're not going to go get a house. So even if you're one of the few who can actually go get a house, or it's time for me to get a house, but my credit sucks, got a job, it pays plenty, I can afford the payment, credit score sucks, sir, can't lend to you. Oh, so the banks are going to stop lending. Well, they already are. I mean, they're not lending like they used to. They're already falling apart. I'm already reading yesterday, JP Morgan, Chase, whatever, going to start potentially limiting the amount of money you take out of your debit card per day to somewhere around $50 or $100 potentially, if they set this little thing in motion. If you're a Chase or JP Morgan customer and you have your own money in their bank, of course, and you try to cash out, I need $100 or whatever per day, no, sorry, you've met the threshold. What do you mean the threshold? It's my damn money. And cue the J.G. Wentworth music, right? It's my money, I need it now. Call J.G. Wentworth. It's my money, and I need it now. But you ain't going to get it now, because the bank needs it more than you, and tough luck. I told you to get your money out of the bank, only keeping there what the bare minimum is that you need to survive about month to month, make your monthly bill payments, take the rest of that money out, store it in your safe, and for God's sakes, if you're going to do that, the second you take it out, it's like buying a brand new car at a car dealer. The second you drive off the lot, it just lost like $5,000. The second you take your money out of that bank and put it in your safe at home, it's already depreciated. So you might as well take it and buy some freaking silver, or even the food storage is better than letting it sit there, and watch it appreciate massively as silver skyrockets. Because as I said, and many experts, real experts, Peter Schiff, Gerald Celente, the guy from Market Ticker Forum, Carl Denninger, all these guys, I mean, these guys know what's going on. We are all saying, and have said, there won't be QE1, there's going to be QE1, QE2, QE3, and QE, which is quantitative easing, blue in the face, meaning quantitative ease to infinity. They won't be able to fix an economy by creating debt, which is what they're doing with quantitative easing, creating debt, creating money. It's not going to go anywhere useful, really, for the most part. And even if it does go somewhere useful, they're going to have to print so much of it, the rest of us who have it, it's going to be useless for us because it's going to be depreciated heavily. And again, if you had silver, it would be skyrocketing immensely. It's $35, $36. You're going to see, as the webbot said, $5 per day moves. Whether that's up or down doesn't matter. It's just $5 a day moves. And once you see that, that is what is known as a temporal marker, if you will. Meaning, here's a timeline. When you see this event within the timeline, that's kind of crossing the point of no return. And when $5 a day moves and silver happen, kiss everything goodnight for the most part. It'll at least start at that point to where it becomes visible, even slightly, and then gets worse and worse. And I'm talking about global economy, American economy. They're going to try to blame it on the Middle Easterners, as Lindsey Williams said. And like I just told you with the Ben Bernanke thing, he said it. At the current levels, we got this under control. But if it rises above 150 a barrel, he wouldn't say what would happen, but there's only so much we could do as the Fed. And if gas prices are that high, due to what that will do to all the other prices, it could jeopardize the American recovery, which was slightly on track, just a little bit slow. We had it, and then Middle East, man, it was out of our control. Act of God, man, we didn't know. You didn't know, and it was an act of God, and you guys are playing God, or at least thinking you are. And you made this crisis in the Middle East happen, which I know is hard to believe for most people. How could this little group of men, whatever, and their CIA and MI6 and MI5 and all these little agencies that go over there in the Middle East and cause things? Trust me, you can hire people over in the Middle East who are living off of a few dollars a day and want change. They want the dictators out of there, and you can give them lots and lots and lots of American dollars to buy weapons, to do all kinds of things, to get ready to revolt, and have a group of these guys getting ready so that when they see the Facebook revolution, that's the key word. Let's go. Get our shit together. They've got millions, who knows, of dollars given to them by the U.S. and other agencies or whatever to do that. That's how we overthrow people. That's how we overthrow governments. These guys have been fine for the past 30 and 40 years, right? We've made deals with them. OPEC, we've made deals. They're our friends. Saudi Arabia, Obama, I'm going to bow to this guy 3 and 4 times. I'm going to bow in front of him. And he was probably bowing to him so that he thought, I am the king of Saudi Arabia, and I just had the American president bow before me. And when he came again last month, he bowed again. And when he came 2 months before that, he bowed. I'm the man. Only to find out that they were using him to make you think you were the man. And now, as you're seeing, they're going to revolt in your country, and you're threatening to kill people and shoot at people if they even try it. And as Lindsey Williams said, it may not be this week, it may not be next week, it may not be next month. They are going to have this crisis go to Saudi Arabia, and when they hit Saudi Arabia with the Middle East crisis, oil, gas is going to skyrocket like you've never seen, and that is just part of the timeline. For the most part, there's nothing you and I can do unless we can wake enough people up. So I thought to myself, if I can get on public access TV, show the old timeline I put together, that is, you cannot deny it, you can't argue against it, you can't fight it. It is proof. What he said, when he said it, he's right the whole time. And if I can get that kind of timeline out in front of people, and there's 1 million people that watch public access TV, I don't know the statistics, by the way, but there's a lot more people watching public access TV than the 13 or 1400 people on my YouTube channel, for one thing. But as I go on there and mention, oh, by the way, my YouTube channel is youtube.com/jsnip4, I'll get a lot more subscribers there, the word will get out, and I'll have public access. Because if I've got to raise my kids and I'm leaving this world, and here's my kids, now it's your turn to try to have a decent life in this world, in which we've all been lied to, and you can't have a decent life only for a short period of time during the boom cycle of the false economy because of fractional reserve banking, because of the Federal Reserve who implemented that system, who knew and has always known that a fractional reserve system always collapses, always brings down the dollar or currency at the time, and it won't win. And by the way, a side effect is a little pattern that looks like a sine wave, and it's called the boom and bust cycle, boom and bust cycle. So if you're around in that boom cycle and you're able to retire before the boom cycle ends, well, you might be okay. But if you're one of the people by chance that isn't retiring in the boom cycle, and you have to live through and work through and not retire yet because the bust cycle is here, sorry about your luck. It was an act of God. We didn't foresee this, when in fact it is foreseeable. Just as looking outside and seeing the sun come up every day, that cycle, this is a cycle too. It just doesn't happen every day. It happens usually every 25 years or so, but it always ends with a bang. And the bang isn't like the most glorious boom cycle, which you might have thought it was based off of what happened to housing, and everyone had credit and 2, 3 cars. I've got 2 houses. I've got a rental property. I am the man. Not for long. Yeah, see, because we have this thing called fractional reserve banking and a new world order trying to get implemented. It is critical that we have this big major boom cycle, and then what happens after a boom? Kind of like when you're high on drugs. What happens after you're high? You come down, and it sucks when you come down, doesn't it? You want to get back into that high again. So you took 1 or 2 pills, right? Let's say ecstasy. You got 2 ecstasy pills. I'm high. I love it. This is fantastic. The best drug. I feel so good. I love everybody. This is great. 2, 3 hours later, coming down. Ooh, that sucks. Man, this feels really bad. Now I'm all the way down. Why did I do that last night? This sucks. I don't like the way I feel right now. I'm back into reality. I need to get back up where I was. 2 pills isn't going to do it. You got to take 3 or 4 pills right now. Well, let's double it. Let's take 4. Boom, 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 boom. I feel it. Okay, I'm back. I'm back. Last time it lasted me 3 hours. This time it only lasted 1.5. But I took 4. I took double what I took before that lasted 3 hours. I should be good for 6 hours. But it only lasted 1.5 hours. Let me take 6 pills. Alright, only lasted 45 minutes. That's what is happening, which is an interesting little analogy I'm giving you here, but that's what is happening with printing and creating debt. Printing money, creating debt. Let's flood trillions of dollars into the world banking system and the United States banking system. Okay, we're showing signs slightly of an economic recovery, right? That's your little high back to where we had years of growth. We should have years of growth by implementing way more money into the economy and into the debt system than we did before, which is why the debt ceiling has been raised 3 separate times, and they're fixing to raise it again. We got to, because we got to get high again. But the high is only lasting this much this time, and then the time after next is that much. And we're basically right here. We've got this much left, so they're going to get quantitative easing 3. Here we come. We already did quantitative easing 2, and he said over the next several months we're going to put $600 billion into the American economy. And now we're hearing they're setting you up for it. Libya, oil, Middle East, it ruined our economic recovery. Now we've got to go to super duper powerful QE 3000. QE 3001. And we're going to fix everything. Only to find out that they do it, and then now we've got a little sliver of highness, right? Of euphoria of a possible economic recovery. But at that point, which we're already reaching it now, people are going to say, wait a minute, this isn't doing anything, and we're just compiling debt. So again, we need to double cross the Middle East, get them pissed off at us. We're not selling you oil because you left us with a worthless dollar, but we got pissed off at them first because their crisis over there caused the price of oil to rise. So they're at fault. They caused the price of oil to rise. We got mad at them because they made it rise. So now we had to print money because our economy's faltering, and because of what they did, of course. So now our economy sucks for us bad, but it's you Middle Easterners' fault. And they're going to say, no, 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 it was your guys' fault. We don't set the price of oil, which they never say that. I don't know why they don't just say that on the news. The IMF and the World Bank set the price of oil every day. They're loving it because $150 a barrel oil, $200 a barrel barrel, $200 a day barrel for $200 barrel oil. This is great. Would you say something? No. You're OPEC. You're loving life. While where were they at in 2008? They were loving life when it was $147 a barrel high. They loved it. But they don't set the price of oil. So it's the IMF and World Bank who are making you and I suffer when it's going to be $150 and then $200 a barrel, not the Middle East. So don't get pissed off at the Middle East. And when they tell us you left us a worthless dollar now because you've been printing out of control, we're not selling you oil anymore, they really should be saying that to the IMF, because the IMF and World Bank are the ones who caused that too. So I have to expose this along with Lindsey Williams, who's been doing a phenomenal job, and other people. While it seems like it's too late, you never know. We might be able to change the tide. These elitists aren't getting everything they want. They tried to do the carbon tax. Obama went to Copenhagen. I did a video on my Facebook page at the time. Again, I don't have Facebook anymore. Telling people he's going to go to Copenhagen. And I don't know which group of protesters or whatever calls the White House. Is Obama going to Copenhagen Climate Summit? No. You're his, and they said, we're positive. How sure are you? Well, we do the scheduling for the president. We know where he's going. You can look at our website. It tells where he's going and when he's going there. He's not going to Copenhagen. It's not even on the schedule. Okay, so we all got called conspiracy theorists. Only to find out, and I posted at the time, anyways, I posted it on Facebook, hey, listen to what Obama just said, and I quote, if the president from China goes to the summit, I may have to rethink things and I might show up too. Maybe. And I said, okay, there's your first sign. He might go. I'm telling you, he's going to go because he's going to push the globalist climate agenda, which is fake. It's false global warming data. There's no such thing as it. If anything, it's so tiny it won't affect anything. What happens? He ends up showing up. And at the same time, hackers hacked into some of these bozos' email system and exposed the whole fraudulent thing of carbon credits and what the whole thing was. And a lot of the third world or lower level countries that showed up, and it was critical for them to get on board, saw these emails. It went out. They said, we don't want any part of this. Obama left empty-handed. Have a nice day. That's a win for us, honestly. Another win, national ID was supposed to be implemented. National ID card / driver's license for the whole country, one card, one agency, etc. That got pushed off. It was supposed to happen again. It got pushed off again. I just read the other day, national ID, home at DHS, Department of Homeland Security. We're extending it again. We're not ready yet to implement it. They don't have time. Things are speeding up too fast. That's another win for us. So they're not getting their way. They are getting their way in some things, but not everything. And the quicker and more people who wake up, the more you're going to hear me come on here with news like this. I said, hey, they weren't able to do that. And I would love to get on here and say, hey, Lindsey Williams was wrong. This time, the final time, he was wrong. They weren't able to double cross the Middle East because the Middle East got their stuff together and they're all happy now. Huh. Guess they can't pull that card on us. I guess they're not going to have to do the old switcheroo at $200 a barrel, switch out on the Middle East and say, oh, we found 4 or 5 massive reserves in America. Great. Glory be to God. He saved the day. When in fact they've had these things since the early 1970s. But they have the old national security stamp on there. Like everything they don't want you to know about. Just hit that national security button. Case closed. No one can look into it. So I would like to expose that too. They are there. These reserves are there. It's our oil. It's our country. Like J.G. Wentworth. It's our oil and I need it now. That's right. And when it's $200 a barrel, you should be yelling out your window, it's our oil and I need it now. Because you're going to. So anyways, been talking a long time here. This earthquake is huge. There's going to be more to come. What about report? Right again, etc. Have a nice day. Alright, so I'm driving to work. Listening to the radio, of course. See if there's any news on this earthquake. They talk about it again for about 30 seconds and then back to Bozo land. Land of the sheep, home of the slaughtered. Or fixing to be slaughtered. And they said that there's now a problem in Japan at one of the nuclear reactors, one of these power plants. The cooling system, which cools the reactive core or the reactive rods of the nuclear reactor, has failed. And in case you're wondering, regarding Chernobyl, in the, what was it, 1985, I think, or in the 80s, Chernobyl meltdown in Russia or whatever, that was the same issue. The cooling, they had safety warnings then, and they just let it go and figured, well, we'll get it, we'll fix it. And another safety thing went off, another safety warning went off, and by the time they realized this is out of control, they couldn't stop the cores or the rods or whatever from burning up. They could not cool them at that point. All fail-safe systems, they waited too long, and we had a meltdown. Now, I'm not saying that that's going to happen in Japan. All I'm telling you is so you have a little reference of what happened to Chernobyl and how did that happen. It's kind of the same thing in a sense. Japan's cooling system of the nuclear reactors rods, the core rods or whatever. And as you probably can tell, I'm not an expert in some of these terms, but there's a bunch of those rods, radioactive rods. That's where the energy comes from, out of the nuclear reactor. They have to be submerged in a lot of water where they are in every single reactor. That's what keeps them cool. And there's a cooling system. It's not just regular water. I'm pretty sure that it's controlled temperature water, you know, that they can control the temperature of it and figure, okay, this thing's pumping out a lot of power right now, we need to cool the water more or whatever, and then they make the adjustments. The water or cooling system that does that job has failed, which means the rods in that water in the nuclear power plant are going to get hot and then hotter and then hotter and hotter if they cannot cool them down. And if they cannot cool them down, there will be a threshold that is met in which we have what we all know as a nuclear meltdown at this facility. It'll be another Chernobyl type incident. Now, I don't want that to happen. I hope that doesn't happen. You know, yeah, I'm a doom and I'm Dr. Doom, but let's be real. I do care about people. I don't want that to happen. But here's something we're all going to have to face here. We need to face this reality real quick. There are lots of nuclear power plants all over the globe. And if Edgar Casey was right, which he's going to be right, and Japan is washed away basically, earthquakes and tsunamis and you name it, and they've got power plants right on the coast, what do you suppose is going to happen should a mega catastrophe take place in Japan and the power plants, let's just say for example, are submerged under salt water now? Forget the cooling system, forget everything. You now have massive radioactive waste or whatever, nuclear crap, sitting there in the ocean, what used to be part of the coast of Japan. How are you going to clean that up? Like with Chernobyl and whatnot, they were able to concrete over the entire area of where that reactor was, and that stopped, you know, the thing from spreading basically, even though for like a 10 square mile or whatever it is radius around that place is off limits, and the radioactive levels were dangerously high. You know, at one point they're finally coming down a little bit, but if you go into the area, you still have to suit up basically, and you can only stay for a certain amount of time. So if we have several, which there are by the way, several nuclear power plants over there in Japan, and by chance something bad happens and now they're submerged underwater, or an earthquake struck and the cooling system, let's just pretend they're not even on the coast, just simply a reactor somewhere, whatever, you know, 2-3 miles inland, and the thing, the water system, because of an earthquake, causes a crack in the big concrete structure, and now it's leaking through into the ground. So now you have radioactive water waste down into the ground, and at the same time it leaked out. So how are these rods going to cool? Good question to ask ourselves. And furthermore, to be a realist as I am, for the most part, when it comes to nuclear reactors, a lot of them, many of them across the world, are located right on the shore somewhere, off the coast somewhere, because a lot of times they use the seawater as part of their cooling mechanism, or part of some process, so let's put it that way. And that's dangerous when you realize, if you believe anyways, that 2012 type of stuff happened periodically, thousands of years. Here's another one, we actually know the date, and as you can see from an 8.9 earthquake that happened today, the record-breaking 7.0s that had happened last year, etc., etc., not even including the 6.9s that were really first hit as a 7.2, 7.1, 7.0, and then USGS said no, it was a 6.8, 6.9, just so they can get it below the 7.0 level. There could have been 30 last year, not 21 or 22. Anyways, this is something to consider. There's going to be problems coming from this, and trust me when I say, as I always mention about the truth always goes into 3 phases. First, it is laughed at or ridiculed, then it is violently opposed, then it becomes common knowledge. Oh, everybody knows that. And 2012 is going to be one of those things. Trust me, because it ain't just going to be, as I've said many times actually, it's not just going to be economic, it's not just going to be earthquakes, it's not just going to be wars and stuff going on and conflict. It's going to be everything, all at relatively the same time, you know, somewhat. And I think it's safe to say, looking around us right now, it's just starting to really take place, where you can kind of see, yeah, we're building up for a war. That's interesting. We're building, okay, got oil problems, Middle East problems, we got economic problems, we've got debt problems, we've got a deficit, right? We got all these things, food skyrocketing, and it's not just going to go away here shortly. Trust me, it's going to get worse until the whole thing implodes. And you and I are standing there saying, is there going to be someone to save me and help me? No, there's not. You're going to have to save yourself. Get your silver and get your food storage. Have a nice day.